Welcome to Ladies-in-Law, where real-world advice meets professional wisdom and empowerment in realms of law and business. Your hosts, Lisa Goucher, Dawn Smith, and Kelly Raymond, bring you innovative strategies, practical guidance, and inspirational stories. Join us as we inspire and support women to thrive in traditionally male-dominated fields. We're here to promote inclusivity and provide practical advice for success. Hi, Lisa here with Dawn and Kelly. Today we're going to talk about how we made the decision to start our businesses, some obstacles, pitfalls, strategies, maybe some things that you can implement if you're looking to do the same. So I'm going to start with you, Dawn. Get us up to speed.
Just trying to think how we overcome obstacles, right? I'm having obstacles constantly, even today.
It's never ending.
But it's good when they're your own obstacles, I think, is the most important thing, is really making that leap, so that when you are confronting challenges, you know you're solving them for you and the people that you work with, as opposed to solving other people's problems. But starting, a business or, becoming a partner at a law firm was really nothing that I ever thought about coming up. I just was trying to be a good lawyer, and I certainly was not a business person or thought anything about being a business person. So I think, meeting my partner, Curtis Klein-Smith, and making that decision to go into business together was just a leap. And then I kind of tried to figure it out afterwards. We figured it out together, learning and growing through challenges. I think you got to be fearless and just take that leap, because there's never going to be a perfect time.
I'm curious because obviously I'm just by myself, right? As a jury consultant, I work for myself. I've got just a couple of employees. When you have a partner that you are in your business with, what was that like, kind of choosing a partner? And what would you tell people if, they're going to consider starting their own firm or partnering with somebody?
You got to like that person. You really have to, I think you got to be friends before anything else, because it's like a marriage. I mean, you're in a relationship, and it's going to succeed if you are able to care about each other and work through issues. I mean, if you don't like that person, you have no place being a partner with them, because it's only going to get worse.
Well, so true. My first court reporting company, we were partners for 17 years.
Wow.
That is a long time.
Yes.
It worked for that long until it didn't.
Right.
And then we're just ready to go our separate ways. As it relates to starting, this was just an opportunity that was presented to me. It was really my husband and my best friend who were very entrepreneurial. I wasn't at the time. I was like, I'll collect my check, I'll make my overtime, and if I'm working with a case clerk as a paralegal that doesn't have it going on, I'll just work longer hours. I do not need that sort of stress of somebody who doesn't have it going on. And both of my husband and my best friend were just like, what do you got to lose? Just go do it. She is willing to give you an opportunity in this court reporting firm, just do it. And I did. And I, like you, and I'm sure you, I didn't have any business sense.
Oh,
Good
gosh,
Lord.
I still don't.
I was a paralegal, So you just cultivate what's necessary, and you do have to be fearless. And when you have a partner, Kelly, the wonderfulness related to that is that you can lean on them.
Sure.
Like when there's moments where it's not working for you, or you just become too nervous for the cash flow that's going out the door and not coming in the door, to have somebody else to rely on that says, look, but we've got this, and this.
That's a great, I think that's
who do you bounce things off of?
Luckily for me, with what I do as a jury consultant, I get to bounce a lot of my ideas and the work product with really great trial lawyers. I'm in focus groups, multiple focus groups, mock trials weekly. So I'm hearing things from mock jurors. As far as the business side of things, though, I really do. I still don't consider myself a businesswoman. I think I'm a great jury consultant who happens to own a business.
Isn't that funny?
Yes.
When are you going to get your head around that?
I know it's hard to conceptualize. And starting, one of the things I remember about starting out, and like you, Lisa, I was not entrepreneurial. I never wanted to hang my own shingle. It just wasn't something that I was interested in. I was just perfectly happy to work for somebody else. And do a good job for them and work hard and make good money. And I felt though that I had kind of hit a ceiling where I didn't have any more room to grow. And my then boyfriend, now husband, said, "Well, why don't you just go out on your own?" My mentor really pushed me, but it's scary. It's very scary. But it should be scary because the fear, I think, is a great motivator, right?
Pushing outside your comfort zone.
Yes.
I mean, nothing is going to happen if you're not pushing yourself outside your comfort
Yes.
zone.
One of the things that I felt very lucky about too, just the nature of my business, being a solo member LLC at the time, I had very little overhead. And so I think that was something that I felt a great amount of relief. I think of, somebody opening a restaurant and they've got to put so much, or a
True.
law firm, right? You need walls, you need staff. I had very little overhead starting out. And I'll never forget about a year into being out on my own. And my husband said, "Well, you're doing great. You're making some money. Why don't you rent some office space?" Because I just office from home. And I just thought, that's so silly. I don't need to spend money on office space when I meet with clients, I go to them, or I'm traveling all over and I don't need an office. And so I think early on, making sure that you are spending what you need to spend to start and then ultimately grow your business is important. But keeping costs down where you can, I think, is really important, just so that you don't feel overwhelmed by just the numbers.
I mean, you've got to have a plan.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be a perfect plan. Um, Sometimes if you have too much information, you have even more fear and you're reluctant to start something. But I mean, I feel like you have to have that spark and then everything else just kind of falls into place. It really does. You just have to just take that first leap. And with a lawyer going out on your own, you just need cases.
Hmm.
Just need cases. I mean, you really can work a case all by yourself if you're just starting out, until you're ready to bring on new people and to grow at that pace. I think the challenge is meeting yourself where you are. Like, what do I want to do? What do I have to start? And then figuring out kind of a growth path afterwards.
Yeah, I think that's great, because I think a lot of times people, especially that do feel entrepreneurial and very excited to start a new business, I think sometimes dive in to the deep end, and they take on too much, and maybe they take on things that you don't necessarily need. And so I think kind of figuring out what does your business need just to get started. And I'll never. I remember about maybe 3 years in, I decided to hire somebody to do my marketing and my social media, because I do not, that's going to be a whole separate episode, right?
Yeah.
I am not, these gals know I'm just not into social media, and I struggle with that. And so I hired somebody to do that. And she was great. And it was a positive experience, but I just realized that for my business, I get business by word of mouth, right? Referrals, working with lawyers, lawyers telling other lawyers about me. And so I just didn't feel like that was something that I needed. I think another thing that we all need to be mindful of, business ebbs and flows, right? Sometimes there are really busy years, and busy is good because it
Yes.
means you're making money. Sometimes it slows, right? Especially in the world of jury trials.
Yeah.
COVID-19, there were no jury trials, right?
That
So
was
there's
crazy.
an ebb and flow. I think you want to always be prepared for, you might be great and busy, always be prepared for, is there going to be a slowdown time?
I'm a jump into the deep end kind of
Yeah.
girl. I mean, I think Curtis and I both are. And I don't, some people have more tolerance for ambiguity than others.
Yes.
And we just went all in. We've changed our business model a couple of times. We have done all kinds of different practice areas, and we finally decided to niche into just doing one practice area. I think that was the smartest thing that we've done in the 13 years that we've been together, is really just niching down to that one practice area. And you've got to be willing to invest your money to build that business. Like for us, we have to have a lot of people to handle our cases properly. And we need those people, and they need to be trained, and you've got to have processes. So there's that starting a business, and then there's that growing a business and scaling the business and those challenges associated with that. I mean, you've grown 2 successful businesses. I mean, how did you go from, just starting to really scaling yours? Because I know for a long time you had a lot of people working for you.
Well, and what you said a moment ago about you just went all into the deep end, I don't think that's most people. And I would put myself in that category. But I would tell anybody who is thinking about starting a business, you just need to do it. And even if you don't know everything, you will figure it out. And I have to say, there's a silver lining, there's a blessing in being naive. And I know that the more information you have, the better it is. But let me give you the example. So when I started in the court reporting firm, I didn't know anything about the business component of it. I'm not a court reporter. I just managed the office, drum up business. And then as it grew, we had to figure out, staffing, all the things that needed to, the components that needed to go with it. I learned as I went along. And so it grew to a point that it was very successful, and then it took a turn. And I had to do 3 rounds of layoffs. It was very challenging. The line of credit at the bank was fully extended, and my business partner wasn't going to renew it, and I'd let go of the collections department. So I turned into collections, and then you have the staff that's there, you have the morale that is down in the gutter because they're concerned about their employment. And all right, we get through all of that, get the line of credit paid off, we go through it, and then I end up selling the business to my partner. I sit out the 3 years non-compete. I'd been in business for 17 years in court reporting. So when my non-compete was coming to a close, my husband was like, well, do you want to do that again?
I remember asking you, are you going to do that again?
I got to tell you, my first was like, hell no.
Right.
And the reason why is because all I could think of is the court reporting shortage, trying to find people to work, overhead, space, leases, taxes, health insurance,
all the things.
So initially, the first time around, I was reserved because I didn't know anything. And then the second time around, my seasoning and wisdom and experience almost prevented me from opening another firm. But we did it. And I was nervous and fearful again. I didn't know if I would be able to grow the business. And we did. We did it again. And the clients came back, but we did it differently. So, if you're thinking about it, I would say get going, because you'll learn as you go.
You can't let the fear, for a long time, the fear kind of paralyzed me, and I felt a bit stuck, right? You cannot let the fear be a motivator for you.
Well, and so that place of being stuck, wasn't that worse than doing it?
Oh, 100%.
Exactly.
So, and once you're in it, right, diving into the deep end, you just swim. There's really no other option, right? But I think what was helpful for me very early on was figuring out what I needed to do to be successful. Just doesn't come overnight. Very rarely does it. In any industry, in any business, it's very unlikely to just all of a sudden you don't have to work hard and you're successful. So I think for me, it was finding out what I needed to do very early on was network.
I was just going to say, how did you figure that out?
I needed to, I had a mentor who was like, you need to network and go to everything, which I really hated. And I still am not a huge fan of networking.
You said that with a smile on your face.
I know.
I really hate
because
it.
because I thought about, I got into an argument with my husband because I had been invited to a Christmas party, and I was going to know 2 people out of hundreds of people. And I just didn't want to go. I felt very uncomfortable. I felt that when I first started and I was networking, I felt like I had to go and sell myself. And that can be very uncomfortable. And we got into this argument because he's like, you need to go. You need to network.
You're like, you go.
Why
go and market
why don't
me.
you come with me? And he's like, no, you have to go. So I figured out very early on that I needed to network. That is just getting in front of people. And to this day, if I am at an event or a judicial fundraiser and I see a lawyer who maybe I've worked with before and they're like, oh, I've been meaning to call you, right? or you meet somebody new. Certainly that's obviously the goal, right? Is to be meeting new people to bring in new business. But I learned early on that networking was going to be very important to me. And so I had to push myself out of that comfort zone and just go stand in a room. And I took my little complimentary glass of wine that helped, always helps to take the edge off, right? And then you just talk to people, and you've got to make your weaknesses your strengths.
That's how we met.
That is how we met.
Right. I would have
Yes,
never have known you if you
I
decided to
know.
not go out there and, I don't
Yes.
know, network a little bit. So I don't think you have to sell yourself though.
That was
Haven't you
something.
figured it
I
out?
agree. You don't have to sell yourself. I think early on I thought that I needed to. I thought that I needed to go try to impress somebody when I was talking to them. And I think what I've since learned is that you just can go and be a person and talk to people, and things will move from there.
Build relationships.
Exactly
Exactly.
right.
True relationships.
Yes.
That's what I love about both of you guys. I just think both of you are very comfortable in your own skin. I think that's why we all hit it off because I mean, there's going to be situations that are not comfortable, but
Right.
you should at some point be able to get to a point where you are comfortable with yourself. So, and then you just show up. That's the hardest part. I
It
always tell
is.
my daughter, I'm like, it's 95% showing up.
I'm a big proponent of just faking it till you make it too. I mean,
Me
you
too.
might not feel
Me
it.
too.
You might
Totally.
not feel that you are the person that you want to project, and you've just got to fake it. You've got to put on a brave face. And then I think the more that you kind of play that part, you move into it naturally.
I just love you more for saying that because I have said that phrase.
Isn't it true?
To my kids, and my husband's like, I hate that saying. I'm like, no, really. And then I'll do casual dress, casual mind.
What is
Like,
that?
you need to dress, you need to look appropriate.
Yes.
Casual dress, casual mind.
Oh, I
Like,
love
I
that.
would get up and go to the office, and I might not feel it, but I mean, I was still dressed like
Yeah.
I felt
Well,
it. And then you can work into it.
It makes a
Um,
big difference. It does. It totally makes
I
a big
hate
difference.
to quote
Go ahead.
a football player, but Deion Sanders, who used to play for the Cowboys, used to say, "Look good, feel good, play good,
Do good.
do good, whatever it
Yeah,
is."
we
My
gotta get that
husband's
point.
killing me for not for not getting it exactly right. But the mindset of, here's the thing that you can control. You can fix your hair. You can put on a little lipstick, put on your nice blazer, and look the part. Once you feel, I love that casual
Yeah.
mind.
Casual dress, casual mind.
I love that.
I think that's the thing too is you have to you have to realize that it's just not going to be comfortable, but there are certain things you can control. You can control your attitude.
Yes.
You can
Effort.
control how you look. You can control your effort. That's what we always tell our kids, right? Show up and mean it. And that's what you do when you run a business too.
Do you know another thing that I would add to that is being kind. It
I
costs
agree.
nothing, and I have really felt that if you are a good person, or at least attempt to be a good person, right?
Don't be an asshole.
That ebbs and flows too, right? But if you strive not to be an asshole, I really do feel like people appreciate that, and they will want to work with you. That's important to me, right? And likewise, now that I get to be a little bit more selective about who I'm working with, I don't want to work with an asshole. I want to work with people who are kind, it costs nothing. And I have found that that helps me do my job better.
If you're working for someone that you know is kind.
If I'm being kind,
you're being
then I feel like I'm more often than not going to get that in return.
So I want to know how you're a jury consultant that has to talk to trial lawyers about being good and doing well for
Telling
their
them to be
clients.
kind.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, how are you kind when you tell them, look, you can't wear that, or you can't do that, or you can't say that?
Well, I think I just try to say it nicely, right? I think it's all about the message and the delivery in anything, whether you're a trial lawyer standing up talking to a jury, or in any industry, the delivery is more than half the battle. And so phrasing it in a way that isn't aggressive or hostile, that people will want to be receptive to your advice. But that's the good thing about my job compared to your job, is I get to sit and and critique and give the advice, and you got to stand up and do it.
You got to have good advice, right? You got to have critiquing. You got to be able to listen. I think I'm trying. Having your own business and challenges that you go through employees, for example, right? You have somebody that you love that you think is great, that's thriving, and they leave, and you're
That's
"What?" Like,
hard.
It's
what
hard
did
to
I
not take it personal.
right, what did I
Yes.
do? You invest all this time and energy, and you feel like you're investing a lot of love and training, and then you realize I must not have done everything right with that person.
Well, I
And
think that's a really healthy way to look at it. I think not enough people are introspective and look at their own behavior and what could I have done differently. I think that's always important, but sometimes people are just in different spaces in their life, and maybe it doesn't have anything to do with you as the business owner, but it's hard to not to take that personally.
And you should, at least, you should think about it.
Yes.
You should
Most
think about
definitely.
it, right? How can I change? How can I adapt? How can I be better? I think if you own a business, you have to be open to criticism and advice and try to keep learning even in really difficult situations. And I'm not great at it. I mean, I've made lots of mistakes, but I really try to learn. I really try to learn from my mistakes.
Well, there's no mistakes. It's either winning or learning.
That's right.
That is right.
That's right.
No
That's it.
mistakes, no failures. You're doing one of two things. And if you can change your mind shift,
So much,
mindset,
yeah, so much is just shifting the mindset.
it is. I mean, I'm not up there in front of a jury having to do what you're doing and what you're doing with the attorneys. Mine is, just relationships with the law firms, making sure that I'm providing the services that they need. So it's so much relationship driven just to make sure people are taken care of. Like really, that's what they want at the end of the day. If somebody is texting me or calling me, they just want to know that I'm going to make sure that it gets taken care of. They most generally don't need to know how. They just, like when Dawn wants a transcript, she just wants it. She doesn't need to know that I need to reach out to the court reporter and do all these other things. Just get it done.
Right.
Just make it happen.
Well, I think at the end of the day, when you have a successful business, it's because you are just able to get things done. The things that you need to do for your clients or whatever industry that you're in, you've just got to get it done. Nobody cares about, I think of like sometimes I feel like a little duck, right? And I'm like paddling furiously trying to stay afloat.
Ducks
and
on a pond.
But I've got to make
Ducks
it look easy, right? If
Yeah.
I'm, spinning out of control, nobody's going to want to work with me.
There's no confidence there, right?
Right.
You just have to make it happen. And then to speak to your office and the staff and everything that you're doing and you're trying to do, that's exactly the same philosophy that I have, because if you reciprocate, it's not a one-way relationship. If I take care of my staff and my court reporters and they take care of me, like then it's working, right? That's where
Well,
the
don't
balance
you find the
is.
more that you take care of your staff, the more that they want to take care of you and do?
I don't know.
Not always.
No,
I've kind of
I'm
learned.
naive. I have 2 employees. So.
Well, it's working for you so
Well,
far.
but I think that's a kind of spinning off this idea of managing people and interacting with people. It's so crucial to find good help and to appreciate the help that you have, right? I think it's hard to do it all alone. And once you're able to find somebody that is so great and helps you, to keep them I mean, it's not easy to do, right? It's hard to find good people. It's harder to keep them. Y'all know way more about that than I do. I've been so fortunate. My assistant is an angel sent from the heavens.
Well, you deserve an
Um,
angel sent from heaven.
thank
You
you.
do. I think what people want more than anything is a place to be successful, somewhere where they can learn and grow and feel good about what they're doing. I really do. I mean, we've tried to put people in a certain place based on kind of what our needs are at that time, and it hasn't worked at all. We've had to really step back and go, we think you're a great asset to our company. Where else can we put you where you're going to be successful? What resources do you need so that you can be successful? I mean, it's great. We have Taco Tuesdays and, we have happy hours and we have fun, but I don't know if that's what everybody loves the most. I think that you've got to give them tools to where they can grow and be successful.
I think that's so true. The lesson I just took from you just then is making sure that you are constantly checking in with yourself. And do I need to adjust the strategy? Do I need to make a change if something isn't working? Don't keep beating your head against the wall. Don't be afraid to say, okay, I've tried this. I thought it was going to work. I've got to swallow my pride. This is not working. Make an adjustment so that you can try to figure out a better way.
Yeah, you got to live. You got to live to make adjustments. You can't get married with something when you're running a business.
When we would interview folks for the office, the one thing that I always told them is that one thing that's consistent here is change.
Exactly. That's right.
That's
You
so
know,
true.
so if you are in the box, like this probably isn't the place for you, because we're either updating technology, we're combining departments, we're growing departments, you know, change is constant in a thriving business, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't be scared of change. Or, I mean, maybe there are businesses that are just steady.
Maybe. I don't know.
That sounds boring.
Not my business. My business is not going to be like that because I'd get bored too.
Well, I think to grow is to change, right? To perfect is to change often. And you have got to constantly be pushing yourself. Am I continuing to learn? That's one of the best things I think about the industry that we are in, and we all do it in different aspects, is that we are constantly having to learn and constantly pushing. If you do the same thing that you did at your last trial, there are core things that you take with you, but you've got to be constantly adapting and pushing yourself and learning. My father-in-law is in his late 70s, and he is an avid learner, and it's so contagious. And he always says, to keep living, you have to keep learning,
I love
right?
that.
And it's so true. And I find that the more you're learning and pushing yourself to try new things or to perfect the things that you maybe do really well, right? It just keeps pushing you further and further along.
This little venture pushing us all out of our comfort zone a little bit.
I'll say.
Yeah.
Most definitely. And then talk about jumping into the deep end. Kelly and I just said, she was like, "Oh, do you want to do a podcast?" I'm like, "Yes."
I think I said no at first.
Little did we
You
know.
didn't say no.
The business plan.
I think I was thinking no.
Exactly. The business plan came, I don't know, within minutes. A
Yes.
full-on business plan, and
Dawn
then she
was
gave
ready.
us notebooks. I'm like, okay, we're doing this.
Yes.
We are doing this.
I don't know. I just, there's lots of things to be scared about. But I think we are, like I said before, we are more powerful than we know. We are more resilient than we know. There are so many things that we can do and accomplish. And if you just get sedentary and you don't push yourself into that next level or out of that comfort zone, then are you accomplishing everything you can? What if you just didn't decide to turn that corner and you met that person that was the absolute perfect person that was going to take you to the next level? I mean, so what if you make a mistake? So what? So what? Just make a decision.
Well, you will
and then
make
fix
mistakes,
it.
right? I
Yes.
mean, no doubt we have all made so many mistakes. A lot of owning a business is trial and error. You've got to figure out what works for somebody else might not work for you. You've got to figure out what works for you, and don't be afraid to make mistakes, because they will happen.
And there's going to be problems.
Yeah.
There are going to be problems and challenges,
You're always, if you're continuing to try and do, and you make the mistakes, you just don't want to end up in a place of regret, because that could hold you back on like blowing the doors off of the business. Like, you just have to take from that mistake, that mishap, whatever it is, and learn from it and move forward.
Yeah, I think recognizing as a mistake, right? Recognizing that it was a mistake and taking whatever lesson you can from it
Yes.
enables you to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how hard it is, just take that next step. Sometimes you're just laying there in bed. at least I am. I'm just like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through the day? What's going to happen today? And
One
I'm
foot in
just,
front of the
that's
other.
right. Just get up, get in the shower,
It's baby steps.
get
Do
dressed.
the next best thing.
Do the next best
When
thing.
it's so overwhelming, just do the next best thing.
That's right. Just one
Yeah.
step. One step gets you to the next.
Have you ever met a business owner that regretted starting their own business?
I haven't.
I have not either.
How about you?
I can't think of, no one comes to mind. And when you said that, I was also thinking, would I ever want to return working for someone else?
Hell no.
Mm-mm.
No, you can't. Once you
can-
go,
once you open that,
once you dive into the deep end of the pool, there is no going back, because it is stressful. There are headaches and mistakes that you will make, but it's all worth it when at the end of the day you're like, hey, my boss is pretty cool, right? And you're able to, have the flexibility to make time to do the things, whatever it is you want to do, right? To make the decisions and not have somebody saying, no, you can't do that, or no, you need to be here at this time. Just the flexibility that owning your own business gives you. And it allows you to continue to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. It's worth all of the headaches and the stress to not have somebody, standing over your shoulder telling you what you're doing wrong.
And worst comes to worst, you go back and work for somebody else, right? You tried it, it didn't work. If you fail,
Always have that option.
yeah.
That's the thing, right? What's really the worst that could happen?
What's the
right?
worst that
So I
could
think for
happen?
anybody that's thinking about starting your own business, what's the worst that could happen? It doesn't work out? Okay, try something new, right? Or go back to what you were doing, regroup, figure out a different way to go forward.
Or, just move states, start start all over
Start
again.
fresh.
Hey.
Exactly. I just taking that leap of faith on yourself is probably the hardest thing, but the most important thing, because
And the most rewarding thing.
it is very rewarding. Yeah. When you have done that and turned the corner and made those really hard decisions, and like you kind of come out, gone into it again, built 2 successful companies and sold them. I don't know. I'm proud of you.
Well, thank
Really
you.
proud of you.
I've enjoyed the journey, and believe me, it's been a journey. I see it all that way. But I really missed the people. The 3 years that I was out, I still maintain contact with my friends. But generally speaking, I love the legal industry. And while some people may think it's stuffy and not necessarily moving, like I think it's cool and sexy, and there's still a vibe there, and people are doing things and they're making a difference. And there's just so much opportunity.
There is a lot of opportunity. Yeah. Being in this area, and I don't know, litigation, right?
Yes,
You're
yes,
dealing with litigators.
litigation.
Yeah.
You're dealing with litigators.
Yes.
It's a certain type of personality, certain type of people that have a lot of, they're smart. Most of them are really smart. Most of them have a lot of energy. Most of them are really creative. Who would have thought that the law could be so creative? But it's really creative. And just being around those people kind of elevates you a little bit, right? Kind of brings you up.
I agree.
Yeah. I think the more you kind of grow in your industry and kind of the higher you climb, right? I think collaboration happens at the top. It's not competition. I think
True.
competition happens at the bottom, right?
Mhm.
The more you grow, you're less threatened by somebody that might do the same thing that you do, and you might want to collaborate with them, or you want to learn from them. And so I think being luckily for us, we are in an industry where we are surrounded by people who do important work, and they are smart and they're thoughtful. I've said this before, especially to be a trial lawyer, right? You have to have a certain amount of healthy ego to be able to stand up and think that you can convince 12 random jurors to go with you, right? But surrounding yourself with people that push you and make you a better person, I think is so the fun part of it.
That's why I'm friends with you guys.
Yeah, no
'Cause
doubt.
You
no
push me
doubt.
to be better, and you always have. So, I don't know. I think you should try.
Yeah.
You should just
That's the message, right? Just do it. Just if you're thinking about it, do it.
Find a mentor. That's going to help a lot, and just start. Take that step.
Yeah.
All right. Any last words?
last
Dawn?
thoughts. Maybe say one thing that you could, if you had to pick one thing that would be a great piece of advice if somebody was considering starting their own business in this industry, what would it be?
I would go back to what I said earlier. Maybe it's one thing, two things, three things. Find the thing that you need to do to be successful. You have to identify. For me, it was networking. I had to push myself out of the comfort zone, start networking, putting myself in front of people. Find the thing that is going to help you be successful.
What do you think?
Okay, I will say that the very first time, way back in 2000, when it was presented to me to go into the court reporting firm, and I'd been working as a paralegal prior to that, the moment somebody made the suggestion that I was potentially going to be in a position to build a business, I looked at every single relationship in the legal field very differently. As opposed to coming to the office and just making sure that I'm taking care of my business, I then immediately, without even knowing, I just look back. I started looking at every single person as that's a relationship I can build and bring that business into the company. So for me, that really opened up my eyes. So anyone that's looking to get into a business, you need to flip that switch right now in your mind and start looking at every relationship in your life related to that business and cultivate it and see where it's going to go. And you never, ever discount anyone, because you just never know where somebody's going to leave. Like, they might leave one company and go to another one, or one law firm and go to another law firm. And then all of a sudden they're in charge of some major book of business. And so you just kind of full circle. You got to be kind, you got to build relationships, and just open your mind to cultivating that.
Yeah, great advice. What would you do?
I would say,
say?
I would say be relentless. Be relentless. You know, if a door closes, figure out how to open another one, figure out how to break through a window.
That's true.
Figure out how to be a good problem solver, because know that if the problems are coming to you, then it's
Nobody
your,
else to
yeah.
solve
I mean,
them.
you get to solve them. You get to solve them the way you get to solve them the way you want to solve them.
I love what Lisa said a minute ago about finding a mentor. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Go find somebody, and that goes to networking or relationship building. Find a mentor that you can bounce ideas off of, that you can talk to. Hey, what do you think about this? What would you do, or what did you do when you were, faced with this problem? Don't feel like you have to solve all of those problems by yourself. Find somebody that you trust and that can help you.
And 9 times out of 10, if you ask, they're going to help.
Oh yeah.
I mean, 9 times out of 10. In fact, anytime I've asked anyone for help, they have always been just completely open and willing to help. It's kind of scary to ask for help.
Just can't be afraid to ask the question, right?
Yeah, you got to do it.
Oh my goodness, another one is completed. I
In
think
the
that's a
books.
wrap. Everybody have a good one.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Ladies in Law. We hope you're walking away inspired and ready to shake things up in law and business. Don't forget to hit subscribe and let us know what you think. Spread the word and share this podcast with your network. Follow us on socials for all the behind-the-scenes fun and sneak peeks of upcoming episodes. Until next time, keep rocking it, keep breaking the mold, and as always, keep aspiring to inspire.